Hey friends, Carmel Holt here. As you know, times are tough for public radio, and the same is true for audio. As a tiny, independent feminist production company that makes SHEROES for public radio and for this podcast, we're getting hit pretty hard with financial shortfalls. Simultaneously, this is a moment where women, trans folks, non-binary, and queer folks need a safe space to be heard. And at SHEROES, we're more committed than ever before to our mission of amplifying underrepresented voices in music. But to keep going, I need your help. SHEROES has partnered with the nonprofit AIR, the Association of Independents in Radio, and we've launched our very first fundraising campaign. Here's how to donate. Text SHEROES to 53555 to make a tax-deductible donation through AIR, or go to SHEROESradio.com. That's SHEROES to 53555 to text to donate, or go to SHEROESradio.com. Thank you for supporting independent, femme, and queer-produced audio and storytelling like the episode that you're listening to right now. It's up to us whose voices get heard, and with your help, we'll keep turning up the volume.
Until you get to that place and until you start to experience the ageism that permeates our culture and certainly the business that we're in, it's hard to explain it until you experience it. But I found that question, like, why are you still doing this? Like, well, why wouldn't I? I have much to say. And the thing is, I think that's very true is that, let's face it, the way the music business works and all that, again, it's all sort of focused on youth and what's the shiniest new thing and all of that. But I think it's unfortunate that the constituency that exists for an older person's viewpoint, man or woman, is forgotten about. And if anything, I just felt like this was not my mission, but it's, as I've been talking about this new record, more and more I'm sort of realizing that I want to speak to that constituency.
That was Mary Chapin Carpenter, and this is SHEROES, a weekly podcast that amplifies women, non-binary, and genderqueer voices in music. We believe that sharing our stories is the first step to making music better for everyone. Welcome back to SHEROES. If you're somebody that joins us on a regular basis, thank you. And if you are just finding us for the first time, welcome, welcome. I'm so happy that you found us because this week we have the iconic, the wonderful Mary Chapin Carpenter in the SHEROES spotlight. I was lucky enough to sit down with Mary Chapin for just over an hour backstage at the historic Bardavon 1869 Opera House in Poughkeepsie, New York, just prior to her sound check that day as she's out on tour in support of her 17th studio album, Personal History. In this hour, we will go deep talking about the inspirations and process of writing and recording the new album, which was produced by the amazing Josh Kaufman of Bonnie Light Horseman and recorded at Peter Gabriel's Real World Studios in England. That's where Mary Chapin has recorded her last 4 albums. Over her nearly 4-decade recording career, which began with her Columbia Records debut Hometown Girl back in 1987, Mary Chapin Carpenter has sold over 17 million records. She's earned 5 Grammy Awards and 18 nominations, 2 Country Music Association Awards, 2 Academy of Country Music Awards, and she's one of only 22 female members of the Nashville Songwriters Hall of Fame. She's also a recipient of the 2023 ACM Honors Poets Award. And as she prepares to head back out on the road for the next leg of her tour, I'm so thrilled to welcome Mary Chapin Carpenter as this week's SHEROE in the Spotlight. I am so honored to have Mary Chapin Carpenter here. Not to make you blush, but what a big deal for me to have you on SHEROES.
Very kind of you. Thank you.
Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, congratulations on this amazing new album.
Oh, thanks.
Personal History.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I wanted to start today really just talking about writing your personal history in song.
Boy, where to start?
Well,
I'll start at the point at which, I just started to really focus in on the songs, which was like in 2020. I had released my previous record, The Dirt and the Stars, that August, I think. And of course, like so many other people. I mean, we had planned to release it with a tour and all that, and that was not going to happen. And that didn't make any sense to hold it back, so we released that record. And then what else was there to do except start, writing songs again? And, I live in the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia in a very sort of rural, isolated place. And I, had a lot of time on my hands, as you may imagine. And it's like the title song from Personal History. It's called What Did You Miss? It sort of tries to sketch out that first year of the pandemic that we all experienced, a very strange and isolating time. And that song was like the way in, sketching out how I was navigating that time. And the very last verse stating that, I've been walking in circles for so long, unwinding the mystery. I've been writing it down song by song as a personal history. In that moment of sort of putting that lyric together, it just felt like this is the roadmap to the other songs that ended up on the record. And it just felt like, that moment where you're beginning a project, and it felt like, okay, I know where I'm going with this. So that's a long-winded answer to your query, but yeah.
It's a beautiful answer. And of course, it sparks like 10 other questions for me.
Go for it.
But so I guess the thing that popped up for me towards the end of what you were saying was that moment where that it's, okay, we're starting something here.
It's what it felt like, yes, for sure.
So over the 3 decades plus that you've been at this, when would you say that you locked into recognizing that feeling?
I feel like I recognized it pretty late. Like, in other words, that moment that I think I just described to you. And that, I mean, going back a little bit, one of my favorite novelists is Elizabeth Strout. Yeah. She wrote Olive Kittredge, My Name is Lucy Barton, many wonderful novels. And My Name is Lucy Barton in particular has this moment where the narrator is taking a creative writing course. And the instructor, I'm paraphrasing wildly here, but the instructor says to her, don't worry about story. We all have one story, but we tell it many different ways. And I remember when I was reading that novel a number of years ago, I had an intake of breath, very sort of like, oh, that's like, I sort of said it out loud in a way to myself. That's what the songs are. That's, like all these years of writing songs, that's my one story, but I'm telling it in many different ways.
Wow.
That's where all the songs come from. That's what it felt like to me. It was like this moment of recognition that, I've always used songwriting as I've always been averse to the term confessional songwriting. I don't feel like it's about confessing anything. I think it's simply looking for understanding, deconstructing experiences in your life or emotions and trying to describe them in song. And it's a way of navigating your emotions and the world and figuring out where you belong on this planet somehow. I mean, songwriting is just my particular way that I found to express myself. And it's always sort of made sense to me in the sense that I have always been a shy person and sort of, quiet. And it was the way that I could express myself that felt comfortable, because whatever other methods there may have been, I wasn't comfortable doing those. So songwriting just felt like this way to be in the world. And, that story in My Name is Lucy Barton, it really spoke to me. And then when I was writing, What Did You Miss? The title song for Personal History, that lyric, when I say I'm unwinding the mystery, it's like I'm just speaking about living life in general. It's like life is mysterious and it's really great and it's hard and it's all of those things. But writing it down song by song has always made sense to me. So that's what I'm trying to explain.
That's What Did You Miss, the title song to the new Mary Chapin Carpenter album, Personal History, her 17th studio album. She's here with us on SHEROES, and I'm Carmel Holt. You were telling us about writing this album during the pandemic, that it started with that song and started in 2020, that first year. And I responded to the story saying, oh, this just sparked like 10 other questions. But maybe one is sort of an observation. I started SHEROES in 2020.
Oh, okay.
And it was an interesting time to start interviewing women about music and being in the industry because, and I mean, I couldn't have known this then, but it was such a forced moment of reflection.
Yes.
And vulnerability.
Yes.
And cracked a lot of us wide open. And in all of the press materials that were sent to me for talking to you today, and every interview that I've heard so far, it's, kind of referred to this album as your most personal yet, your most autobiographical. And putting it in that framework, I think, well, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I guess. And yet, if I look back on the albums that I've made, they all feel very personal.
Right.
But, it's just, maybe it's always our most recent one that just feels, most fresh in our minds or in, as it relates to us. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But having said that, I don't know how much more I could have, exposed myself in this regard. But I say that in a very positive way. It's like, just lots of memories and the importance of time and place and identity and meaning and purpose. And all of those things are tied up in the record.
I was thinking about the process of writing memoirs and how, when I've spoken with artists who have also written memoirs and recorded records, sometimes they go hand in hand.
Right.
You have not written a memoir yet.
I have not.
Okay. So this is maybe the closest that we've gotten so far?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah. But I understand that this is not a chronological telling.
Not at all. Not at all. It does, time is fluid. It goes back and forth. And even in the title song, it's sort of sketching out that first year, as we've discussed, of the pandemic and the isolation and all of that. But in what I think of as the choruses, it goes back in time. Like, I wish I was in a bar with my friends dancing and getting buzzed off on the porch and drinking beer with my teenage self. And, it's just like time is going back and forth because I found myself a lot of that year just, I don't know if nostalgia is the right word. I don't know if reminiscing is the right word. It's just that I found myself like, what did I miss? I missed these things that may not have been in my life for years and years and years. But again, they're occurring to me as I was just existing in that time. And it's weird how that happens. But, our memories aren't chronological either.
Of course.
Right.
Was there anything that cropped up for you that sort of surprised you?
That's a great question. I don't think so. I mean, I think that's a great question, but I honestly, I don't think anything was surprising to me. If anything, I felt that once I had started going down that path, the things that I did sort of start to dwell on and memories that I was sort of, laboring to sort of pull in and examine, they were things that I really wanted to be with. They weren't surprises. They weren't, uncomfortable. It's almost like, remember when you're taught to meditate and often you're sort of, imagine that, clouds are going by and you're not trying to just focus on one, you're just letting them go by. It felt like that, if that makes any sense.
Totally.
Like I was
sense.
Comfortable with really sort of reliving things and re-examining and, just excavating thoughts and feelings and emotions, even if they were many, many years in the past.
So do you want to take us to another song on this record and, point us to a point in time? No?
Or maybe you
Maybe
pick
I
something.
can? Okay, sure. Well, why don't we talk about Girl and Her Dog?
Okay, sure.
This stood out to me before I learned about what sparked this song. I heard this very autobiographically because I know you're a big dog person.
Yeah.
I'm a big dog person.
I knew I liked you.
And I'm also a solo middle-aged woman with a dog.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, this song could be about me. Thank you, Mary Chapin. So yeah, what can you tell us about this song?
Well, I'll share with you what I try to speak to every night on stage in introducing the song. As I mentioned, I live in the Blue Ridge Mountains in Virginia, in a rural, very beautiful place, actually. And in the summer, it's awfully hot. And if you want to beat the heat and walk your dog, we like to go to this beautiful place nearby that has miles of gravel roads that you can walk. And they open at sunrise, they close at sunset. It's just beautiful. And one day Angus, my dog, and I were walking the gravel paths, and I heard a car coming behind us. So we stepped off the path to let it go by. And it was this beautiful, cool, old vintage pickup truck with a window in the back of the cab so you could see the back of the head of whoever was driving and the passengers. And it was a beautiful older woman with salt and pepper hair and a long braid down her back. And her two companions were dogs. And as she disappeared into the distance, I just was really charmed by just this vision disappearing. And I started to, as I was walking with Angus after that, I just started making up this life for her, as one does. And I imagined that she lived nearby. Maybe she lives on a farm near there. And she'd finished walking her pups and she was on her way back home and she would have another cup of coffee in her garden. And then I like to write at my kitchen table. So I put her at her kitchen table after her coffee, and she was going to probably start work on her new novel or her latest volume of poetry or something. And then in that afternoon, maybe she'd go down to the bottom of her garden where she has a painting studio and she's working on paintings. And so obviously what I'm creating for her was a very creative life and in my mind, a very beautiful life and a rich life. And it was around the time that I saw her on, driving by. I had turned 60, and, that is a heavy number in our society and in our culture, particularly for women.
Oh, yeah.
And I know so many older, accomplished, brilliant, amazing women who have all said to me that when they turned 60, they not only added a year to their age, but they started to feel invisible in the world. And I remember thinking, that's crazy. That's just bonkers, But until you experience it, it's going to seem bonkers. It's going to seem crazy. And then I started to feel that in my own life in just different ways. Some very, very subtle, some more overt, but I got it. I understood what they meant. And that started to make me feel like kind of twirly, like, what is going on here? What does this mean? And I really sat with myself for a long time. Yeah. And I remembered that woman driving in the distance with her dogs and that story of her life that I had been making up. And I felt like I was connecting the dots. And I think the reason I made up that story is that I was really actually trying to figure out what my life was supposed to look like in this new season, and who am I? What am I doing? I mean, yes, I know that I'm so grateful that I'm out here and playing music and making records and all of those things. But it was like a bigger kind of, who am I? What am I doing? What is life? What does this mean? All of that. And I was just looking for like a mentor or examples and I realized I was really comforted and inspired by that life that I made up for that woman. And then I realized in the same moment, I was trying to imagine that life for myself. And I was trying to figure it out. And she became, rightly or wrongly, for better or for worse, she became this visual kind of thing for me. And after I sort of took that in, I realized that this new season, to use a cliche, but it's true,
Mm-hmm.
it felt wonderful. It felt full of art and creativity, energy, not caring what people think, which is one of the gifts of growing older. Books, art, music, just the things that you can immerse yourself in. And not that you couldn't do it at a younger age, but you just have more appreciation for it somehow as you grow older and you're trying to just find your place in the world, you know, and not feel invisible, or when that happens, not care, you know. And so I felt comfort, I felt inspired, I felt all of those things. And then eventually I wrote that song about that day when I was walking with Angus, and the meditation about what it means to grow older and what matters. And maybe it's just a cup of coffee and hoping it doesn't rain on your walk. And it's that simple sometimes.
That's Girl and Her Dog, one of my very favorites off the new Mary Chapin Carpenter album, Personal History, her 17th studio album. She's here with us on SHEROES, and I'm Carmel Holt. I feel like we could almost spend the entire episode talking about that song and like exploding into pieces and building back up some of the things that you said, which are so eloquent and really, like, I feel myself getting emotional right now, you know, because that experience specifically for women is so hard to understand, even though you hear it until you get there.
Yeah.
And part of the story that hit me especially hard was like, what is expected of us, what we expect for ourselves, how much of that is true based on what we're getting from society, how we're told that it's supposed to play out for us.
Like, is there a deadline or something? Like,
exactly.
And it's like, and I will tell you,
Yeah.
I was recently interviewed by someone who said, in reference, I suppose, to my age, why are you doing this? I started laughing. Like, what kind of question is that? Like, is there a deadline in your mind? You know, like, I just thought it was strange. Like, and again, it came from a significantly younger person, and not to, bash that person, but again, I think you're right. Until you get to that place and until you start to experience the ageism that permeates our culture and certainly the business that we're in, it's hard to explain it until you experience it. But I found that question, like, why are you still doing this? Like, well, why wouldn't I? I have much to say.
So much to say.
Right.
So much to say.
And it's like, and the thing is, I think that's very true is that, let's face it, the way the music business works and all that, again, it's all sort of focused on youth and what's the shiniest new thing and all of that. But I think it's unfortunate that the constituency that exists for an older person's viewpoint, man or woman, is forgotten about. And if anything, I just felt like this was not my mission, but it's, as I've been talking about this new record, more and more I'm sort of realizing that I want to speak to that constituency. And just one thing also I'll say is that a couple of years ago when I was, in the midst of writing this record, and I was running around doing errands with one of my sisters one day. She said, so how's the writing going? I said, it's going. It's, it's the way it does, you carving things out and it takes time. And she goes, and she said, well, and she's like 2 years older than me. She goes, well, I hope you're writing something for us. And I started howling because I knew exactly what she was talking about.
Right. Yeah.
But, she was just letting it go, just saying, I hope you're writing something for us. Like, and she's right.
Yeah.
And again, my hope would always be that no matter what age, whatever you look like, whatever you do in your life, we all hope that something resonates with someone, no matter where they are in their lives.
Yeah.
And that can't always be true, but you hope for it. And again, I don't think this is a record that's just for people my age.
Definitely not.
At all. But again, I understand why she said what she said.
Oh my God. And that's why, fight me. Anyone, you can fight me on this, but I am really on about this and talk about it a lot on this show with people of all ages about how important it is to push through the youth obsessed music industry and show up regardless of what stage of life you're at, because women are not well represented in the older phases, middle-aged phases even. I mean, I've talked to, 20-somethings on this show, on this series, who are being told that they have to hurry up because they're going to age out.
Oh my
I've talked to women who
horrible.
I am serious.
That
and
is
this is
so
like,
horrible.
literally, this is in like within the last 4 years. This is
Right.
today. This is not like, oh, it used to be so hard for women. No.
Right.
This is like now.
That ranks right up there with that dreadful man who owns Spotify, Daniel Ek, who says
100%.
like, you can't take time to create. You just have to drop songs like anytime. He's just the worst.
He's the worst.
So he's the enemy of artists, as I think of him.
Yeah.
But also what you just said, like, you better hurry up because you're going to age out of this business before you're 25. That's bullshit.
It's bullshit.
Yeah.
And it's especially bullshit because it's fine for aging rockers.
Right.
Like Mick Jagger. It doesn't apply. I'm sorry. It's just it's not equal.
No, it's a double standard.
Yes, exactly. Let's just call it what it is.
And also, it's like, I remember, like, there's the Guardian's, one of their music reviewers, Alex Petradis, I think. I remember reading a review he made of Glastonbury a couple of years ago. And I'm not even going to say the artist's name who he slandered, in my opinion, but it was an older woman, incredibly successful, beloved rocker, who he described in her appearance at Glastonbury that she was past her shelf life. Oh my God. It's like, dude, you're such an asshole.
Such an asshole. I just had Shirley Manson of Garbage on SHEROES, and she talks about, actually explicitly in one of her songs, about a journalist telling her that she should retire.
Oh God.
And it reminded me of that when you just shared that. I was like, that's got to be a male journalist, right?
No, it was.
Again, we could spend the entire episode talking about this, and we won't, I promise. But it does get me fired up. And I do think about how important it is, not that you should be making music to make a point, or that, it needs to be on our shoulders to provide visibility and representation, but that's kind of what it is.
And also, because I think this definitely is a related subject, and that is, we all have our sense of ourselves and how we do what we do and why we do what we do. And if anything, like when that journalist asked me, why are you still doing this kind of thing? And I remember I couldn't exactly explain it to him, but what I wanted to say without sounding like I was puffing myself up, but I believe this, there's no way I could have written these songs when I was in my 20s or even in my 30s or even perhaps in my 40s. It's taken me all of these years to hone my craft, to be able to feel that this is the best work I've ever done.
Yeah.
And to really believe that, and to feel that way in a deeply proud and meaningful way, not in a, angry way.
Right.
Or, but just, this is what I know about myself. I know this. And so, again, it's like, if that journalist had perhaps thought about it maybe in that way, like, oh, you've been doing this a very long time, and now you've reached this place where you can say this about your craft, and it must make you feel good, as opposed to, why are you still doing this? Right. So it's just, there's so many ways of looking at it, that makes one ponder.
It does make one ponder. And also, I think it's important to state why you are still doing this and that you are still here.
Right.
And thank fucking God you're still here. You know what I mean? Like, what a gift. What a gift. And like, honestly, like, you're talking about how, there's so much more to do. There's so much more to say, how you're finally reaching this point. It's like, why would you stop now when you're like peaking? like
Or let's hope that you haven't
peaked.
and that you are just, again, you're in a different season of life. You have so many different ways of thinking about it, viewing it, expressing it, addressing it, all of those things. And these are valuable points of view, whoever they come from.
That's right.
And we should celebrate all of us who have reached this point. And personally, I just feel so grateful, like I said, that I'm still able to do this and that people want to hear what you have to say. It's deeply humbling.
Let's talk a little bit about the experience of recording the record. Again, with all of those years of experience doing this in probably so many different ways with so many different bands and different producers and different rooms and studios. Talk to us about recording personal history. I know that you returned to Real World Studios for the third time now, right? Or fourth?
Yeah.
Oh, fourth. Okay, great. Yeah. So talk to us about recording the record.
So I was fortunate enough to do a project last year with two artists that I revere from Scotland, Julie Fowlis and Corinne Polwart.
Gorgeous record.
Thank you. It's called Looking for the Thread. Yeah. And I had had this idea for a very long time to want to do a collaboration. And we actually started talking about it during the pandemic. It was, again, a lot of time on our hands. And I asked Julie and Corinne if they'd be interested in working together. And thank goodness for me, they said yes. And so there was some wonderful retreats that we spent getting together and working towards this record. And when we were casting about for, who should we anoint to be our guide, our producer, Josh Kaufman's name was the top of the list. We all love the work that he's done in all the different incarnations that he has been a part of. And again, thankfully for us, he said yes. And so we all gathered at Real World in just outside of Bath in Southwest England last year. We made this record with some extraordinary musicians, Chris Vadalero on drums, Cameron Ralston on bass, Rob Berger on keys, Josh playing guitars, Corinne, Julie, and I playing our respective instruments. And that album came out last January. And I just loved that experience so much working with Josh. That was the first time I had ever worked with him. And I knew that my own record was coming up, and in terms of the timing of making that. And I asked him if he would do it. And again, thank goodness he said yes. Yeah. And it was wonderful to go back to Real World. I've made 4 records there, and each one has just felt like a unique experience. And this was no different. It just, you get together with different people and you're all in the same room. And it's, nowadays it really is a privilege to be able to record head on and not, phone in your parts and all of that. And it was one of the most marvelous times of my life. And I just live for it. It was great. And I love the record that we made. And, I think Josh is a remarkable person. I think he's the most open-hearted person I think I've ever met. I think he's just extraordinarily brilliant as an artist and as a producer. And that doesn't even bring in his chops as a musician, which are, amazing. And, he's just like a heart friend, And so I love this record. And that's the thing. It's like when you walk out of a studio with what you finished under your arm, if you can't feel that it's the thing you love the most and that it's the best work you've done, then maybe something went wrong in the process. I think you should naturally feel that way. And I certainly did.
I agree with everything that you said about Josh because he's a friend of mine. I love you, Josh. And I am always, in the context of the SHEROES conversation, always fascinated to talk to women about working with producers, particularly male producers. There's not a lot of women out there that are producers that are on the short list. That's been an area that, talk about all the little, soapboxes that I like to stand on. I'm constantly standing on that soapbox alongside the artists who are going like, where the hell are all the like Grammy winning, women and non-binary producers and engineers and, people in tech.
Yeah.
That being said, it takes, I think, a very special man in that role, especially with material like this. I was thinking like, wow, you know, all the things that you had said taken into consideration and trusting that
Yeah.
to a producer is, as I call it, a BFD. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So like to entrust that to Josh was a big deal.
Right. And he, I certainly have my moments in the studio where I have tremendous doubt and moments of, oh God, yesterday I really liked this. Today, I'm not sure it's any good. I just have terrible self-doubt and I go through those phases. And he helped me, endure those moments and help me get to the other side of them. And, he's just a deeply sensitive person. He respects everyone around him. He gets the best out of everybody because he's so kind and open and, fearless, I think. And he's not a dictator. He doesn't yell. He doesn't scream. He doesn't throw fits. He's not someone you need to tiptoe around. And over the years, I've worked with a number of different people that I've had some of those experiences with. And I want to be honest, it's like that may have come from my own shyness or something. I don't want to absolutely, say that it was that person's fault or whatever. But, in any case, I've just had different experiences with different people that I've worked with. With Josh, I just always felt supported. And I felt he was always just saying, just tell me what you're thinking. Tell me what you want to do. I remember in particular, before we even entered the studio, he asked me, what have you never had on your record that you always wished you would?
That's an amazing question.
It was sort of like, what do you want for Christmas?
Yes. What was the answer?
Well, the answer in that moment was, I've always wanted to have sort of like a chamber horn section on some songs because it's like when you hear horns, you hear brass, whatever. It's just, to me, it's like, oh, swoon.
I know.
Oh, swoon. It's like an emotional sort of, oof, it just takes you somewhere. And so that was in that moment, I remember saying that to him. And sure enough, he brought me Christmas and on some of the songs with beautiful horns. And, and it's just very subtle, but it's there, and I loved it. I love it.
Can we play one of those songs right now? Which one do you think?
Saving Things has horns on it. How about Saving Things? Saving Things.
You want to set this song up for us?
I can do that. I love Nick Cave, and he has endured extraordinary sadness and loss in his life.
Yes.
And people may know him through the Red Hand Files website, where he answers questions of all sorts of subjects. He's deeply articulate, spiritual, just a remarkable person in my mind. And I remember him talking about how his wife, Susie, when they would reflect upon, they lost their son. And again, I'm paraphrasing, so, I'm not getting the quote exactly right, but he said something to the effect of that Susie, when she dreams, it's like she thinks of her dreams as saving things. And I just, that line just kind of jumped out at me, and I started to think in my mind, what are mine? What are my saving things? What are the things in life that feel like they nurture me, they heal me, they save me, they protect me, they are talismans. They're things that, they're emotions, they're items, they're experiences, they're adventures, they're memories. They represent all sorts of things. And I started kind of writing a list. And that song is essentially a list of my personal saving things, the things that help me, even if I'm not even aware of them sometimes, like they're in your subconscious or whatever, but they're everything from a cup of coffee to the things that are on my mantle, to having a day where I feel kind of vulnerable and I'm in the supermarket and someone smiles at me. Things like that. So that song means a lot. And so Saving Things. It's emotional.
Is it okay if we talk about what's making you emotional?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know why. That hasn't happened to me before since I've been talking about this, but
I have that effect on people. I should have warned you. We might shed a tear or two.
I get teary.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's because it goes deep and talking about stuff.
Yeah.
Talking about the things that matter. Talking about, just in the context of the song, the things that are the life preservers and that are the things that when everything feels like shit and you are able to call a friend, see something in your house that comforts you, the things that inspire you. Okay, I've recovered now. But, just the things that mean something.
Yeah.
It's just not something I toss off. It just goes deep. That's what I'm trying to say.
That's the Saving Things. Amazing song. Paul's about midway through, in fact, exactly midway through the new Mary Chapin Carpenter album, Personal History, her 17th gorgeous studio album. I'm here with her on SHEROES, and I'm Carmel Holt. We're shedding a couple of tears, which is great. Tears are cleansing. It's a full moon today.
It is. And, when people come up to me, I just was thinking about this. When I'm fortunate enough, the people tell me how they feel. And they say, oh, X song, that makes me cry. And I look at them, I go, oh, I'm so glad. I love it.
Yeah.
When people, it's like they're connecting to it in some way. I'm not glad that they may feel unhappy, but I think what they're saying is that it touches them in some way and the experience is to have a tear or two. And I feel humbled by that and grateful to know it.
It's one of your gifts. It really is. I want to mirror that back to you. That is absolutely true. I was thinking about when you were talking about the Saving Things, and I was kind of following you in this cinematic way through your house, even though I have zero idea what your house looks like, but I'm having my own movie,
Okay.
And I was thinking about a word that I noticed was repetitive through these songs.
Coffee.
Coffee was one.
Yeah, it shows up a lot.
And loneliness, lonely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think part of what draws me to you, I'm going to speak very personally now, if you don't mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I sort of alluded to this earlier, is like, I get strength from hearing stories of fellow solo, creative, strong women.
Mm-hmm.
I get strength from women standing in that and not apologizing for it. And I want to thank you for that. And I think, again, it's one of these stigmas.
Right.
Like this, I don't know, like the idea of like a spinster or whatever.
Well,
but also it's such, talk about a double standard, because in the music industry, right, it's impossible for some women to imagine having a family or even having a relationship and being married to their career. And I know that I could be talking about any career, but we're here talking about music specifically. And then there are women who are like, they have kids and then they're afraid of how they will be perceived. They lose their sex appeal. They're no longer hot.
Or they can't tour because they have family obligations.
Exactly. So I guess I noted that because perhaps I'm more attuned to it because of my particular station in life. But can you talk a little bit about your relationship to all of that and being a solo woman?
Well, I think, first of all, I would zoom out and try to speak about it in terms of, a wider life, not just the music career, whatever.
Sure.
And that is that, again, speaking to the culture we live in and the way we're perceived and stuff, it's almost like don't admit that you're by yourself or that you're, unmarried or unpartnered or whatever it is. Because it's as if it's something to be ashamed of, as opposed to that's just the way life turned out. It's like, that's crazy to feel that you can't address it and present it as this is part of my story. I feel like I've always written about what it feels like to experience loneliness and obviously there's a very big difference between solitude and loneliness.
Yes.
And I get a great deal of sustenance from solitude.
Yes.
And I learn a lot from loneliness. That's how I would describe those
Yes.
two different things that are related.
Yes.
And I've had times in my life where I felt like I would just expire from loneliness. And then they pass. And then I've had times in my life where if I could not get enough solitude, I thought I'd go crazy. So it's like, it's all these different sort of up and down environments, you know?
Yeah.
And all I can really say is that I have a core group of friends who have known me forever, and they know how I am and who I am and what I am. And I feel completely accepted by them. And I can call them anytime and say, I'm having a really blue day. I don't know why. Maybe I'm feeling lonely. Maybe I'm hungry. Maybe I'm just cranky. I don't know, but all of those things happen. And, again, not to make it all tidy and everything, but I was just thinking of the last verse, the first lines of the last verse in the title song of Personal History, where it says, how did you feel when you felt so lonely that you never believed you'd be whole again? And there were moments during the pandemic where, I went for months without seeing another human or being in another human being's space, in real life, as opposed to a screen. And, there were times when I know so many people who felt that way, just like, oh my God, how will I ever feel like myself again? Does it have to be because I'm in the company of other people, or is it just, what is it?
Yeah.
And the truth is that even before the pandemic, I would have those deep, dark periods of loneliness. But I think it's just the way I'm made. And it's the way I've always felt, for as long as I've been conscious of how I feel. It's like I just have those episodes. And sometimes it makes you feel like a freak. And sometimes it leads to greater understanding and empathy and self, care and all of those things. But like I said earlier, it's just sometimes it is something that I take from, and other times something I swerve to avoid, but it's part of life. It's part of being human, and it's nothing to be ashamed of. Oh my gosh. And what I would respond to what you said about, it resonating in your life, whatever. Anytime I think we recognize other people who seem to be experiencing the same things we feel, let's face it, it makes us feel less alone.
Yes.
And so we're drawn to that. And thank goodness we are. And thank goodness we find people who can reflect our own experiences and make us feel less unique in those harder times.
Well said. So you were talking about this record that you made, Looking for the Thread. 3 women singing together.
Right.
Over the course of your career, I think this is another thing that I kind of love about you, because I love to see women working together.
Yeah.
That you have, over the course of your career, from basically the beginning, worked with and also uplifted other women. I think about, I know that you didn't do this intentionally, but essentially that friendship that happened between you and Lucinda gave her first Grammy.
Well, I had nothing to do with it.
Okay,
because
she had you did. Though.
Well, she had an amazing song.
She had an amazing song.
That that all happened because it was, back in the Stone Age, back in the last century. Roseanne Cash, Lucinda Williams, and myself, we went to Australia to do like, in the round kind of thing. And I, revere both of them so much. And it was so exciting to be a part of that. And every night we'd be on stage together and swapping songs, and, I'd play along and try to accompany them. And
please bring that back, by the way.
I would love to.
Okay.
If Roseanne and Lucinda hear this, let's do it again. But every night, Lucinda would sing Passionate Kisses, sing harmony and play along. And after every show, we'd walk off the stage and I would tackle her in the hallway and slobber all over her face and say, I love you, I love you, I love you, and I love that song. And finally, I kidding, but I'm not kidding. There are no jokes, Dr. Freud. I think she finally just got weary of being slobbered all over. And she said, oh, for God's sake, just record that song. And I said, okay, I will. That's literally exactly what happened. And every night that I get to sing that song, I get to inhabit this extraordinary vessel of a song for 3-some minutes. And it's empowering, and it's moving, and it's inspirational. It's just a wonderful experience every night that I get to sing that song. And she gave me that gift. So I think of it like that.
You've maintained these friendships all these years?
Well, we don't see each other very often. In fact, it's been a long time since I've seen Lucinda, although we did tour together like about 5 years ago, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
And Roseanne, I've seen, intermittently at different things and events and that sort of thing. But again, I hold them both up as, just representations of grace and smarts and brilliance and truth. It's not a secret why they're so beloved as artists and musicians, writers, creators. There's no secret.
Can I share something with you?
Sure.
So a few years ago, actually, I think it was the first interview ever that I did for SHEROES, now that I'm thinking of it right now, was with Roseanne.
Okay.
And she talked about that tour.
Oh.
She was like, I think because we were talking about relationships between women in this industry. Like, because there was like a scarcity mentality, that there was some, I think even to this day, some women have this like competitiveness, or there can be only one, or the industry wants to pit you against each other.
Or the way the radio
there is only one
now,
slot. Yes.
But back when I was coming up,
yeah,
that wasn't the case. There was lots of women being played. But again, I don't know when it changed or whatever. The research dictated something, but it's just so ridiculous the way it is now.
It's terrible.
Like, we have that one slot filled. There's no more room.
I'll tell you something. Yeah. I've been in those rooms.
God, it's just
it is
so
the
depressing.
Worst. It is the worst.
Yeah.
But Roseanne was saying how when the three of you were doing that, like it just encouraged, it like lit a fire under her, She's like, damn, I want to write a song that good. Damn, she's good. About you, a song that you wrote, or a song that Lucinda would write, and it just kind of was like this friendly competition.
Well, it's just like, why wouldn't you want to be a part of lifting others up?
Yeah.
It's just, to me, that's always been really important. And if I've ever found myself in a position to lift another artist up, I want to do it.
Yeah.
And it's to me, that's like a place of privilege, and you can be actionable in terms of doing something right.
Can you talk to us a little bit about what you've seen change and what you have seen kind of unfortunately stay the same vis-a-vis women? I'm putting this in air quotes because I just really have an issue with the women in music thing, but how else do you say it?
Right.
What have you seen change?
Well, there's a part of me that, even though I'm, in the music business, I think I have a somewhat distant relationship with the daily machinations of the industry, in air quotes.
Sure.
The business, whatever.
Yes.
It's like you take what you need and leave the rest, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So in a way, I don't know if I'm going to use the word qualified or just tuned in enough to have a strong opinion or a strong sense of what's different, other than, the things that we've touched on briefly, like, the charts that, again, I haven't, chased charts for a very long time, and, or had a place on them. So they don't really mean that much to me. But when I hear anecdotally, or, someone brings it to my attention, like this ridiculous sort of environment now where there's like 1 or 2 slots for women on whatever the chart is.
Whatever the chart is. That's right.
And it's like, I just think they're missing the boat. There's a constituency. It's like, come on, But I don't know how it got that way. I don't know what happened. I don't know. And, again, when was it that guy who used to be the head of the Grammys or something who said something like, women need to step up. Right. It's like, again, dude.
Yeah.
Dumbass.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think he was proven wrong very quickly.
Yeah.
Or proven ignorant.
Yes.
So
he's no longer there.
He's no longer there, right? And let's just also speak to the different world we live in now. There's a fire hose of content, information, competition for eyeballs, attention, all of those things. You couldn't possibly keep up if you were, even just invested day to day. There's so many great women artists. Not all of them, sadly, get the opportunities or the chances or have the people supporting them that would help them become more visible, more successful, whatever. It's just, I don't know. I guess I'm being rhetorical. Is it like, is that why? I don't know. Is it because there's just so much, so many things vying for our attention, so many records being released, so many delivery systems for content? I don't know. But I'm imagining that it's all of those things, everything, everywhere, all at once,
right,
that makes it hard for everybody.
Everybody, sure.
Yeah.
So
I know you're asking me what has changed, and I just don't think I have a tidy answer for that.
Well, maybe I'm not asking the right question. I mean, maybe what I really want to know is, like, from the outside, I think about the era that you came up in as like this golden time. Like, I was thinking about it, like getting ready to talk to you today, and I was like, Sean Colvin and you and Roseanne Cash and Lucinda. It was like that moment was amazing. It was amazing. And like you're saying, like women were all over the radio.
Right.
And then I'm even thinking about like the early 90s, early to mid 90s, and like the advent of AAA radio and the Lilith Fair.
Right.
And, I mean, there was like, I'm getting chills, like feminist movements in music everywhere.
And no internet.
And no internet.
No social media.
Right.
So I think those two things somehow have deeply impacted how we get our art, our music, the things that we love. And again, I think this is a longer conversation for another time.
Right.
Because we could really try to deconstruct it. It would be very interesting. And there's a lot. I think there's a lot of viewpoints out there that would be very interesting to hear.
Let's do that.
Okay.
I'm totally down. If you ever want to do that, I'm your girl.
Okay.
So was it what I think? Like, was it amazing? Because you also, I know, like you wrote so many songs that were categorized as like feminist anthems. See, you're rolling your eyes.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
just because I never thought of it like that.
Right.
I just didn't. I mean, I can tell you anecdotally, I remember when we finished, the album was Come On, Come On.
Yeah.
And it had a song called He Thinks He'll Keep Her on it. I wrote that song with my buddy Don Schlitz. And I can't tell you over the years how many fellows have come up to me or told me via, however, letters or social media.
Yeah.
I understand that the protagonist in that song is a woman, but that is the story of my life as well. And I thought that was wonderful. And I remember, again, when we recorded the song and turned the album in, there were a few people in the marketing department of Sony, at my label at the time, who said, we're nervous about releasing this song because it sounds like a man-bashing song. And I was like, oh, for fuck's sake.
Oh my God.
But I had to say, no, it's not a man-bashing song. And sure enough, it was like one of the most successful songs off the record. I think because it spoke to everybody. Again, you're telling a story from a particular point of view, but you're not being exclusionary. It resonated with a lot of different people.
What does the word feminism mean to you?
Real life. If it's a badge, I wear it proudly. I can't imagine wearing any other badge through life.
Yeah.
It's the same thing like I'm a feminist, which means I support women, which means I support myself, which means I believe in equal pay. I believe in equal opportunity. I believe in all of those things. And when I read a story about a different kind of lifestyle, or how shall I say it, women taking a secondary position within a family unit or employment or whatever, it just makes my blood boil and makes me think, what are we doing? Are we in the 50s again?
Right.
Is that crazy? What the heck?
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
Yeah. I asked the question because of the eye roll, so I wasn't sure. You know what I mean? Because actually, it's a fair question. It's not something that one could assume because it's like kind of a loaded word. I think there's over time, you know?
But again, I think, politics and culture have, identified certain words. It's almost like code for something
or the man-hating.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And it's, it's almost like, I always sort of, roll my eyes when people say, don't use the word liberal. And I was raised in my family that liberal was a position of honor. And I still feel that way. I'm proudly liberal and I will always be. And
hell yeah.
Come at me at your own peril.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the age of zero fucks given, people.
Right. Right. Exactly.
We have Mary Chapin Carpenter here with us on SHEROES, and I'm Carmel Holt. Where should we go next? Well, I did want to give you a big old shout out for your podcast.
Oh, are you kidding me?
Hope is a Muscle.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my God. And the 3-part series that you did with Sarah Kay.
One story. Oh my gosh.
Oh my God. Mary Chapin.
Well, coming from a podcaster like you, thank you so much for that.
Everybody needs to listen to that. I mean, honestly, not that you need another job or another career, but like you have one if you wanted one.
You're so kind.
Beautifully done.
Thank you. I love doing those podcasts. I love it. I loved One Story. Sarah Kay, she's an extraordinary poet, just a remarkable person. And I loved being in conversation with her. And then doing Hope is a Muscle. And I had Joan Baez was a guest. Jamie Raskin was a guest. The amazing Adrienne Mishler was a guest, and John Darnielle from the Mountain Goats. And so it just, it allowed me to kind of indulge all of my, feelings and thoughts and beliefs, and just to hear the marvelous thoughts and beliefs of my guests. It was a real privilege.
I hope that there's another season.
I would love that.
I remember, I think it was in the Sarah Kay conversations, you talked about your fear of running out of time.
Yes.
That was something that I just wanted to touch on for a moment before we wrap up. Can you talk to us a little bit about that fear?
I absolutely can. And, it's a real feeling. I don't know where it comes from. I mean, it's not like I've been told, oh, I have a health issue and it's going to reduce my lifespan or whatever. It's not like something happened that triggered that feeling. It's the way I've felt for a long time. And I don't know why. It's just, feelings of mortality and, existential thoughts and all of that. Or maybe it's, comes from a positive place of like, I just have lots of ideas and I want to make sure I act on them and not procrastinate and all of that. But, again, not to make a tidy tie back to the new record, but the last song is called Coda.
Yeah.
And, it's a coda, if you will, to everything else that's there.
Yeah.
But it's the last verse that's deeply meaningful to me. And you know what? It ties back to Girl and Her Dog as well. The idea that at this time in my life, the way I think about it, it's like maybe all the loud noise and the bright lights of life may not be as loud and as bright any longer. But it doesn't mean that this time of life isn't rich and beautiful and important and worth savoring. And the last verse tries to break it down in a real sort of quotidian way. Like your mornings are sitting there, that's another mention of coffee, a quiet cup of coffee, with a moment of peace and gratitude and an appreciation for all that's come before, certainly all that is present now, but also believing that what is unknown and unseen about the future is something to welcome and to embrace. And that in the end, what matters most is feeling loved, being loved, and giving love to the people in your life. And that's the roadmap to me, and that's what matters most. And that's what that song tries to express. And that's why it belonged at the end of the record as a way of not so much tying it all up, but just saying, to be continued.
Would you like a magic wand?
Thank you. I'm taking it from you. Okay.
It's a SHEROES magic wand.
Okay.
So we're making wishes about what we would like to see change in music for women, for non-binary folks, for queer folks, for BIPOC folks, for people who are not equally represented.
Yes.
It's kind of a first thought, best thought, first wave of the wand. What would you change?
Well, if it is a magic wand and it has magic powers, I would want to change everything you just said. You know, that may seem like an easy answer, but I would want all of those people, those humans, to have the light shine on them that they deserve.
Yes.
And the access to opportunities that they deserve. And the ugliness and the intolerance and the ignorance of this world towards people, whoever they are, to disappear.
Mary Chapin Carpenter, thank you for being with us on SHEROES. What an honor. Please do come back.
I'd love to.
With thanks again to Mary Chapin Carpenter. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Massive thanks once again to Mary Chapin Carpenter for being with us on this very special edition of SHEROES. Her 17th studio album, Personal History, is out now on 30 Tigers. You can catch Mary Chapin out on tour this fall with special guest Brandy Clark. All tour dates at marychapincarpenter.com. Today's episode was recorded backstage with big thanks to the Bardavon 1869 Opera House in Poughkeepsie, New York on August 9th, 2025. SHEROES is produced by me, is mixed and mastered by Kelly Drake. Our original theme music is by Lucius. Our podcast is distributed by Talkhouse. SHEROES is also a nationally syndicated radio show. Please visit SHEROESradio.com to find out more. Keep in touch on Instagram at SHEROES Radio, and please consider leaving us a rating and review wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also subscribe to our new YouTube channel, SHEROES Productions. SHEROES is 100% independent and is made possible through the support of our public radio affiliates and now listeners like you. Through a new partnership with the nonprofit AIR, the Association of Independents in Radio, we've launched our very first fundraising campaign. Text SHEROES to 53555. That's SHEROES to 53555 to make a tax-deductible donation through AIR or visit SHEROESradio.com. Thank you for supporting independent, femme, and queer-produced audio and storytelling. And until next time, remember, music is our superpower. I'm Carmel Holt. Thanks for listening. Also from SHEROES Productions, take a journey on the road to Joni, an Ambie Award-nominated 10-episode series celebrating the legacy and impact of Joni Mitchell. Distributed by Talkhouse. Subscribe now to The Road to Joni wherever you get your podcasts.